Welcome back to the English lesson, The Swiss Family Robinson. Up till now, you have seen that the Swiss Family Robinson was on an adventure when they landed on an island. The family includes William and Elizabeth with their 4 sons, Fritz, Ernest, Jack, and Franz. They have built 2 types of houses up till now, the first one being the tent and the second one a tree house. Let us now go into the story and know what are their next 2 houses. Are you ready? Let's begin. Thinking ahead of the next winter, Father decided to create a place safe from the elements, a strong storage spot to protect themselves and their belongings. Fritz came up with an idea of a cave. Not finding one, they thought of carving out their own cave in a rock abutting their camping site. On the smooth surface of the rock, Father marked the dimensions of an opening and they picked away at the hard surface with their axes, chisels, hammers, and shovels. Over the next several days, the family cut windows in the rocks to allow for cross currents of air and for sunlight to enter the cave. When they had finished, they had 4 rooms, complete with a fireplace. They now had a new winter home. This is the next paragraph from our text. We will now look into the details of this paragraph. Here are the meanings of the difficult words and some questions for you. Once again, let's begin with the paragraph. Thinking ahead of the next winter, Father decided to create a place safe from the elements, a strong storage spot to protect themselves and their belongings. What do we mean by elements in this line? Here, elements is dangers like animals and extreme weather. They needed protection from the wild animals on the island and also the extreme weather that could harm them and their families. Thus, we can see William thinking ahead of time, a very good characteristic, that is foresightedness, comes across through this line. Let's go to the next one. Fritz came up with an idea of a cave. Not finding one, they thought of carving out their own cave in the rock abutting their camping site. The most convenient home after the tree house would be a cave. It would not only protect them from the wild animals but also the extreme weather. What do you mean by abutting here? Abutting means having common boundary. The rock that was close to their camping site was looked at as their next home. It was not a cave, but they thought of carving out their own cave here. Let's continue. On the smooth face of the rock, Father marked the dimensions of an opening and they picked away at the hard surface with their axes, chisels, hammers, and shovels. The meaning of dimensions is length, breadth, and height. After Father marked this on the rock of the cave, they started working with the following tools: axe, chisel, hammer, and shovel. Here is your axe. This is a picture of the chisel. This is a hammer, and this one is a shovel. You may have seen these tools at home too. These are used for daily uses like hammering a nail or chiseling or making a part fine, or the axe is used to cut wood or some hard surface, and the shovel, of course, is used to gather sand on the beach, or even the small particles at home that are swept with a broom. It works in the same manner. Let's go to the next one. Over the next several days, the family cut windows in the rocks to allow for cross currents of air and for sunlight to enter the cave. Here, cross currents means ventilation. Every house needs very good ventilation. Thus, they cut out windows which serve the purpose of ventilation. When they had finished, they had 4 rooms, complete with a fireplace. Of course, in winter we do need a fireplace because it could be very, very cold on that island. They now had a new winter home. I'm sure it must be cozy enough for all of them to stay there. Let us now move on to the questions. What was the third place the family decided to reside in? Yes, if you have thought of your answers, I'm sure your answer is the cave. If we have to write this in complete sentence, we will write it as the third place the family decided to reside in was a cave. You will get 1 full mark for writing this answer correctly without any spelling mistakes or any grammatical errors. Second question. Why did they wish to shift there? What do you think is the answer? Yes, the answer is found in the first line. The family wished to shift to a new place to keep themselves safe from the elements like wild animals and extreme weather. This would protect themselves and their belongings. This could be your second answer. I hope this paragraph is clear. Let us go to the next paragraph. Because of low light, the cave house they had built felt oppressive. To remedy this, Father and Jack rigged up a new light. They found a bamboo pole that would reach from the floor to the ceiling. Then, after securing it, Jack climbed to the top of the pole and hung a large oil lamp that they had rescued from the ship. One day, they found that one of the family's huts had been completely destroyed, and the cultivated fields around it had been trampled and ruined. There were huge footmarks everywhere. Father saw massive damage to the trees as well as many huge footprints, which he identified as belonging to an elephant herd. Thus we see that the family is faced with the second difficulty. Here are the meanings of the difficult words. Once again, because of the low light, the cave house they built felt oppressive. Here, oppressive means distressing. You may have experienced this at home. In absence of bright light, we find it difficult to operate. So was the case with the Robinsons. Thus, it felt oppressive or distressing. To remedy this, Father and Jack rigged up a new light. Remedy, solve. To solve this, Father and Jack set up a new light. They fixed a new light. And how did they do it? With the help of a bamboo pole and a large oil lamp that they had rescued from the ship. The next difficult words are trampled and ruined. Next paragraph. One day they found that one of the family's huts had been completely destroyed and the cultivated fields around it had been trampled and ruined. Trampled means walked on something and ruined means destroyed. There were huge footmarks everywhere. Father saw massive damage to the trees as well as many huge footprints, which he identified as belonging to an elephant herd. Let us try and frame sentences with secure. Here, securing it means after holding it tightly or fixing it up in its place. You can too frame sentences with the word secure. The next word for you is identify. Identify is recognize or examine and find out what it is. We have done a lot of identification in the science chapter. I am sure you will be able to write sentences with these two new words. Consider it as a part of your assignment. Next slide. The next morning, the family began to design a new defense to discourage all wild animals from entering their cultivated lands. They also finalized their idea about the new residence. Rather than building a house on stilts, which the elephants could knock down easily, they would use 4 strong trees growing in a square near one another as a foundation. The trees were of equal size, approximately 12 feet apart. Thus, they built another safe home. 10 years passed, and the young boys were now young men, and their parents were very proud. They called the island New Switzerland. Many adventures occurred over the years. This paragraph introduces us to their fourth and the last house. Let us now look into the meanings and questions. The next morning, the family began to design a new defense to discourage all the wild animals from entering their cultivated lands. Here, defense stands for protection. They required protection for their cultivated lands. Cultivated land is where they grew crops for their daily needs. They also finalized their idea about the new residence. The fourth and the final new residence was now coming up. It was, rather than building a house on stilts, which elephants could knock down easily, they would use four strong trees growing in a square near one another as the foundation. The Robinsons had grew smarter, so they required a stronger foundation. What could be stronger than four strong trees? They were fortunate enough to find them in a square near one another. Thus, they avoided building house on stilts. Stilts means bamboos or bamboo sticks put together to make a platform. The trees were of equal size. Another lucky charm, approximately 12 feet apart, just what they wanted for their house. Thus they built another safe home. Like the second home, the fourth home also happens to be a tree house. Let's go to the next paragraph. 10 years passed, and the young boys were now young men, and their parents were very proud. They called the island New Switzerland. Many adventures occurred over the years. I'm sure it must be a beautiful island, and the family bonds increasing day by day, month by month, and year by year. This is the most beautiful story. Let us go to the first question. What made the family change over to their fourth residence? I hope you have identified the answer in this first paragraph on the slide. The family changed over to their fourth residence due to the fear of wild animals. This could be your answer. Next, what precaution did they take before building it? Like I have already explained to you about the strong four trees instead of house on stilts. The answer could be the precaution they took before building it was building their house on four strong trees as the foundation instead of building a house on stilts, which the elephants could knock down easily. This could be your second answer. Last question. Do the changes in the family's residence remind you of the history of man's evolution? This is a personal opinion question. It is quite thought-provoking. You may compare the family residences of the Robinsons to the history of man's evolution and the houses he lived in. Man first lived in caves. Later, he built houses with the help of bamboo, grass, close to the river, and created river valley civilizations. Later on, he went on to make strong concrete houses. Thus, you can answer this question in your own words and write it down in your books. The next interesting incident in the life of Robinsons is as follows. On the shore of another island, Fritz had knocked down an albatross, which was threatening to attack him, and found a rag tied to the large bird's leg. On the rag was a message that an English woman had been stranded on the smoking rock. Fritz had no idea how old the message was. His father suggested that smoking rock sounded like a reference to a volcano. Since there were no volcanoes in the vicinity, the bird might have come from hundreds of miles away. However, Fritz felt that someone needed his help. He was determined to do his best to find the sender. Before returning home, he had written his own note on the rag, retied it to the albatross's leg, and had watched the bird fly off. The note told whoever received it, "Do not despair, help is near." Fritz then successfully rescued the young woman, Jenny Montrose. Though shy at first, soon she got used to living with the Robinson family. Here we see that the eldest of all, Fritz, is knocking down an albatross. Albatross is a very large white sea bird. It is seen around the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean. While he knocked this bird down, he found a rag on which there was a message that an English woman had been stranded on the smoking rock. Stranded means left alone, helpless. Fritz's father, that is William, identified smoking rock as a reference to a volcano. All of us have seen volcanoes, at least in the pictures or videos. A volcano throws out molten lava. It also gives out smoke, ashes, and small dust particles. Thus, William correctly identified that smoking rock could be a volcano. But the problem was there was no volcano in the vicinity. Vicinity means close to their island. That meant that the bird had come from hundreds of miles away. But we see how Fritz was so compassionate towards the stranger and was determined to help whoever had been left alone. He wrote another note on the rag and retied to the albatross's leg. The note read, "Do not despair, help is near," which meant do not worry, your help is on the way. Thus we see that Fritz successfully rescued a young woman by the name Jenny Montrose. Though shy at first, soon she got used to living with the Robinson family. Another addition to the Robinsons family. Let us answer some questions. How did Fritz learn about another victim forsaken on a faraway island? I hope you have found out the answer. Fritz learned about another victim forsaken on a faraway island through a rag which was tied on an albatross's leg. The rag had a message on it which read, "An English woman had been stranded on the smoking rock." This could be your answer. Write down a few characteristics of Fritz. This is another personal opinion question. You can find out some of his characteristics from this paragraph, which mention that he was determined, he was courageous to take up the risk, he was daring. Write down at least 4 of his characteristics. Next slide. One day they saw a ship which had laid anchor. An encampment had been set up on one of the smaller islands. After checking the people through their spyglass, Fritz and his father decided to announce themselves. After they had returned home and cleaned it up, they did not want the crew to think they were savages. The next day, Fritz and his father met the captain and told him their own history as well as Jenny's. To everyone's surprise, it had been Jenny's father who had inspired the captain's search. He believed his daughter was still alive after 3 years. The captain had decided to attempt to find her. With a burst of celebration, the family, passengers, and the crew of British vessel headed towards New Switzerland. Everyone was amazed by the prosperity and good health of the survivors. Another interesting twist. Let us now look into details. One day they saw a ship which had laid anchor. So Fritz and his father saw that another ship had come there, and laid anchor means halted there or parked there. An encampment is temporary accommodation, had been set up on one of the smaller islands. After checking the people through their spyglass is a small telescope. Fritz and his father decided to announce themselves. Announce themselves is a phrase where it means they wanted to tell the details about themselves to the captain and the crew of the ship. So they decided to reveal their identity or their story. They did not want the crew to think they were savages. Crew means the group of people doing the same work. A crew could be a cooking crew, or it could be a camera crew, where all the people are involved in the same kind of function. So they did not want to tell the crew of the captain to think that they were savages. Savages here means wild, or they were nomads, or they were tribal. So they wanted them to know that they were people who were stuck or victims of the storm that had left them on the island. So the next day, Fritz and his father met the captain and told him their own story as well as Jenny's. To everyone's surprise, it had been Jenny's father who had inspired the captain's search. He believed his daughter was still alive after 3 years. The captain had decided to attempt to find her. Jenny's father had inspired the captain to search for his daughter even after 3 years. What a bond of father and a daughter. With a burst of celebration, the family, passengers, and crew of British vessel headed towards New Switzerland. Here, burst of celebration is a phrase I encourage you to frame sentences with all these difficult words and phrases. Write down these sentences in your notebook so that you can show it to the teachers when we meet again. Everyone was amazed by the prosperity and good health of the survivors. No one thought that the survivors would be in good condition, but here was a different story. All the survivors were happy and very, very healthy. Let us see if you can answer these questions now. Who was the victim and how long had she survived? Did you get the answer? Let's check. The victim was Jenny Montrose and she had survived for 3 years. I hope you got this right. Who is included in the word everyone? In everyone was amazed. The answer is in the last paragraph. Everyone means the family, the passengers, and the crew of British vessels. That is the family of Jenny Montrose, the passengers of the ship, and the crew is the members who work on the ship, including the captain, the people who look after the passengers, the people who cook food, look after the cleanliness, housekeeping of the British vessel. Vessel here means ship. This was already explained to you during the first part. So the answer would be everyone in Everyone Was Amazed includes the family, passengers and the crew of British vessel, that was headed towards New Switzerland. We have now reached the last part. As the day ended, the father realized that decisions must be made about who wanted to stay on the island or return with the ship. Elizabeth and her husband did not wish to live anywhere but on the island. They had been there for so long and had grown used to their life. Jenny asked if anyone would support her to England. Fritz was the first to respond. He offered cheers for us who were going to Europe. Ernest, on the other hand, wanted to stay on the island. Jack also decided to stay back. Frank, the youngest boy, decided to join Fritz in leaving. Franz wanted a chance to receive an academic education. Before Fritz left, he told his parents of his love for Jenny and his wish to marry her. The father had kept a record of all the adventures they had had on the island. He handed over the journal to the captain to be published. Then the ship departed. That was the end of the story. Looking at the details, how does the journey come to a happy end? While we read here, the journey came to a happy end because everybody was happy with what they got and also took up what they really wished for. That is, Elizabeth and her husband, that is William, stayed back on the island. Fritz and Jenny decided to go to Europe, whereas Ernest and Jack stayed back with their parents. And Franz, the youngest of all, decided to take up academic education. Thus, everyone got what they wanted, and the journey came to a happy end. Frame sentences with grown used to or grow used to. This is another common phrase used in the English language. For example, we grow used to going to school every day, but because of the lockdown, we are unable to do so. You can frame another sentence with the word adventure. I'm sure you can do this on your own. Find the synonyms of assist. Assist to help is to help someone. So which one do you think is the word that is a synonym or a meaning of assist? Support. The word that is a synonym of assist is support. Synonym of educational. Educational is where Franz wants to take up education, wants to receive an academic. The word academic can be a synonym of educational. Since it is found with education, here's your hint. Antonyms of give from the passage are receive. An antonym of arrive from the passage is departed. Hope you enjoyed the story and the activities related to it. Here are some more activities for the lockdown period. Assignment. All these activities are given at the back of the text, where you can read after the chapter and solve it in your textbook if you have one. If you don't have one, you can solve it in your notebook after following it on your screens. The first one. Two separate words combine together to make a new word with a different meaning. They form compound words. Using a dictionary, find the meanings of the following compound words. The topic of compound words is already covered in the 8th standard. Compound words like class teacher, can be used, where class is a different noun, teacher is another noun, but together they form a new word. Similarly, a lot of compound words are seen in the text. The first one is armloads. I have found out the meaning for you. The amount that can be carried in our arms. The other compound words are footprints, driftwood, cross currents, spyglass, fireplace. You are expected to write down the meanings of these words
after looking into the dictionary. All the best. Another interesting activity for all of us. Please note that this question may hold 2 marks in the board exam. So let us get trained in Standard 9 to answer this question correctly. The following words can be used as nouns as well as verbs. Make 2 sentences of your own using them as a noun in one and a verb in another. First word, hold. Noun, she has a strong hold over her children. Verb, let me hold the bag for you. Please note, the same word hold is once used as a noun. Noun is a word that could be a person, place, or a feeling, an abstract noun, or a collective noun. So once we have to use the word that is given to us as a noun, and the second time we have to use it as a verb. Verb is an action word. So it is used as a strong hold, which makes it a noun. And let me hold the bag for you, which is hold is the action in this sentence. Similarly, we are going to use the word value. All of us value the teachers in our life. Okay, that could be a verb, and the sentence for a noun could be the value of a school is known best only during lockdowns. That could be the sentence as a noun, the value. Just a hint, when you use the before these words, they will be nouns. And when you use them as an action, they will be the verb for you. Similarly, you are requested to do the remaining words as your assignment for the lockdown. Not, travel, return, reach, knock, attack, and mark. Be careful while solving this question. Fill in the blanks. Given in a mixed order below are some good human attributes of the family. Pick out each from the box and write it against each line that reflects it. These are some values or human attributes, abstract nouns, which we have to write down in the following sentences. First one. The father told Fritz the girls would make excellent bowls and spoons, and they cut them into various utensils. What a use of gourds into spoons and bowls. So, could it be courage and daring, perseverance and positive attitude, foresight, family bonds, human sensitivity, resourcefulness, knowledge and its application, or cautiousness? I think it is resourcefulness. In spite of not having the resources, that is spoons and bowls, they are making these resources out of the available matter. Thus, the first answer is resourcefulness. After some days, Elizabeth informed that she wanted the family to move to a safer place. What do you think is the answer? She wanted them to be safe. So, the answer could be cautiousness. Before any accident could take place, it's better to be cautious. You are requested to solve the remaining by reading these sentences and picking out these human attributes from the given text. Please note that one of them is extra, so don't be confused. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sentences, but 8 options. So don't worry, you can write 2 if you want for one sentence, or just leave out 1. Don't worry, there's no mistake here. Okay, let's move on. Now, the remaining could be done in the text or in the notebook, but these two have to be done in the notebook itself. It will be corrected when we rejoin school. Write in your own words how the Robinsons family made each of their homes. So, you have to basically write down a short note on their first home, second home, third home, and fourth home. This would include how they built it, why they built it, and what precautions did they take while building each of these homes. The paragraph may be between 4 to 6 lines. So minimum 4 lines and maximum 6 lines to be done in the notebook. Notebook, paper, diary, whatever is available at home. Please do not move out for buying books. Just write down in whatever is available. And the next question is already done in the 8th standard as expansion. So similar question here. Expand the following ideas in a paragraph or two. Any one has to be solved during your vacation. Where there is a will, there is a way, and courage and resourcefulness are the keys to overcome problems. So any one of them can be expanded in a paragraph or two. I suggest you do 2 paragraphs, wherein the first paragraph will explain this idea, and in the second paragraph you can show how it can be implemented, or how this is true. Where there's a will, there's a way, or courage and resourcefulness are keys to overcome problems. If I were to make a choice, I would definitely take the second one, because the present problem is lockdown and we just have to be courageous and resourceful with whatever is available in the house, and with that we can overcome the problem of lockdown. So that would be my choice, but I leave this choice to you, which one to solve in the book. Keep it ready. All the best. Thank you and God bless.